There's an adventure inside all of us. Some of us live for that adventure. Others let it take them someplace new. Your adventure begins here at Wind River Resort and Casino. Your adventure begins here at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mike Krueger, and it is, Thursday, July 2nd. Looking at a live shot from our Divine Sky Cam overlooking Redding. There's a beautiful sunrise this morning. Even though there weren't any clouds out there, we saw some really good colors coming around the mountain there. And looking at those clear skies out there this morning, and taking a look now at, right now we're taking a look at Lake Shastina, out at the Lake Shastina Golf Resort, sponsored by Elwood Ranch. Look at that, sunny skies there. Still a little bit of snow on the mountain. Maybe if you're heading out maybe for a hike around the base of the mountain, should be looking like a gorgeous day for that. A little on the warm side, but not too bad. Taking a look at Shasta Lake. This is the Jones Valley Resort, sponsored by Elwood Ranch as well. There you can see the sun coming off there at the right part of your screen, of course, coming up from the east. A little bit of a light breeze, as you can see from the flags there, but nothing too bad. All right, take a look at Crescent City Harbor District. A couple of high clouds out there this morning, and a little bit of a moon. We're starting to see it get smaller and smaller now. We saw a bit of a full moon a few days ago, and now we can see things are fairly calm and clear out towards Crescent City Harbor District. This is an image sent in by Milt, and I love the caption that he put in there for it. He said, "You tell me." Right, so this is what's known as a sundog. We've mentioned this before, but a lot of times what happens is you can have that thin veil of high clouds, which we see here. And then around the sun, you'll see sometimes on either side of it these little bright, what look like what you're seeing right there, these little rainbows, right, that develop on either side of the sun. And sometimes around the entire sun, you'll see a ring around it, and then also on either side of it, you'll also see those bright areas of those rainbows. So this is what Milt saw. I'm not exactly sure when, maybe it was yesterday, not sure, but sent this photo from the free Weather NorCal app. You can do the same. And just like Milt, you might see it right here on Coffee with Krueger. We got Kenny Elwood checking in this morning. Kenny is, of course, one of our sponsors. We're so glad to have him here watching. Yes, those cameras are amazing. So thank you, Kenny. We're so happy to have you as one of our sponsors. We take a look at Jackie Dixon. And she is saying, good morning from Trinidad. All right, let's go and take a look at Krueger's Quick Cast for your Thursday, July 2nd. And for those of you who may be new to Weather NorCal, I do my forecast typically in two different segments. One as a quick cast for those of you that just want a quick look at the forecast for the day. And then those of you that want more detail. Extended outlook, what we can expect going into the weekend, next week, and that's in the deeper dive, which we'll get into that here in just a bit. Skeeter meter this week, 0 to 5, it's at 2.4, so about halfway there. And the Shasta Mosquito and Vector Control has certainly given you all kinds of great advice to keep your property from becoming breeding grounds. Some of the things like swimming pools and spas, breeding grounds, that is, for mosquitoes. Watering cans, watch for those. They can have water in those. Lawn ornaments and furniture, wheelbarrows, right? Lots of other great things or other things in your property that can collect water. And you can go to the Shasta Mosquito Vector Control website, and you can get all of the advice that they have. All right, let's take a look at the temperatures out there right now. Low to mid 60s for the valley. We're talking 30s and 40s for the higher elevations, and 40s and 50s for the coast. For tomorrow morning out the door, or this morning, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Temperatures in the low to mid 50s for the coast and higher elevations, and around 70 at 8 o'clock this morning. And then, of course, the satellite image is showing that we are going to see that rain up to our north, but we should stay dry. We got a few clouds coming in advance of that as that kind of weak system passes on through, but otherwise, it's not going to bring us any rainfall. Let's take a look at Futurecast to kind of see that. So as we progress through time, you'll see some of the afternoon clouds developing in the mountains. And it's showing a little bit of shower activity trying to move into southwestern Oregon, but California in general staying dry. And even the marine layer kind of breaking off on the coast as well. Here's your swimming forecast. And of course, don't forget about Mindy's safety tip of the week from Reading ISR, a water watcher. That is an adult that can watch the water, make sure the kiddos and everyone in the water is safe, and make sure that they're watching the water with no distractions. Now, if you rotate that duty every 15 minutes, you can make sure that whoever's on watch will not get distracted themselves. But look at the temperatures, mid-90s for the valley. Shouldn't be too bad, but certainly the pool will be a cool, nice place to cool off. Otherwise, around the mountains, you're looking at temperatures in the low to mid-80s, temperatures in the mid-60s, low to mid-60s for the coast. For the valley tonight, low to mid-60s, right? And then it looks like we're talking about temperatures 40s and 50s for the mountains and low 50s for the coast. All right, so let's take a look at your 7-day outlook. For the valley, you can see it's warming up a bit. Low to mid-90s today, much like it's been the last few days. A tad warmer Friday, a tad warmer than that on Saturday. That's the spike, right, the peak. And then we'll hover between 95 and 100 for pretty much Sunday through Wednesday, and then maybe even a little over 100 degrees by the end of next week. The coast actually cooling down by the weekend, in particular Sunday into Monday. Otherwise, inland, the mountains seeing the same trend as the valley. A spike in the temperatures peaking somewhere around Saturday. Temperatures dropping slightly by the second half of the weekend, but staying most likely right around or just above normal for this time of the year. Taking a quick look at your fire weather forecast, and you know what? I took the winds out here because typically they haven't been much of an issue. I'm going to put them back in because we got a question in from Jackie. It's been quite gusty for you along the coast, and so I'm sure she'd like to see those winds stay down because they certainly have died down. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw in the winds. There we go. Let's see what it looks like on the coast this morning. So there you can see this morning, yeah, you're experiencing the calmer winds. That's why you're asking, are the winds going to pick back up again this afternoon? Well, let's take a look. Let's take you through the afternoon. And the answer to that is no. They'll probably be a little breezy, but certainly not to the extent you've seen the last few days. So that hazardous seas warning we've had on the coast the last few days, that's allowed to expire this morning because the winds are dying down. Now you'll notice, though, off the coast, you head about 10, 20 nautical miles off the coast, let's see the patches of red, that's the very gusty winds there, but they're not along and on the coast. So Jackie, that should hopefully answer your question for today. Meanwhile, elsewhere, wind's not that bad either. In fact, I wasn't normally going to show you the winds because they're just not much of a concern, even for the coast. Yeah, they're picking up at times, as we typically do see this time of the year, but no major wind events. You see on Sunday, they do pick up a little bit for the valley. So let's take a look at the fire weather risk and the humidity. So the humidity is the numbers on your screen. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here. So typical dry conditions, single digits to low teens, but because it's not terribly hot and because the winds aren't terribly strong, our fire weather risk is in the low to moderate category. That's the yellow. We've got more of the same on Friday, but notice on Friday, we're seeing more orange. And why is that? Well, number one, it's still dry. Number two, the winds aren't quite that strong. But number three, the temperatures are starting to pick up. So as it warms up and it stays dry, fire weather risk will increase. Then on Saturday, they increase even more. Why? Because now we're talking temperatures most likely 100 degrees or possibly higher in the valley. Still very dry, but once again, winds not that bad. But remember those winds on Sunday, they're picking up. We've still got the heat on Sunday, still very dry, and the wind's picking up. Now we're in that high category for the fire weather risk. And by the way, take note of central Siskiyou County, take note of the mountains, say in Modoc County, Eastern Mountains, you're getting in the yellows and oranges. This is that time of the year we're starting to see more of the yellows and oranges in the mountains. Because, of course, less of the snowpack, we're starting to see warm things up even in the mountains, and we're seeing higher fire weather risk as a result. All right, so that's a look at your fire weather outlook. Let's take another look at the Divine Sky camera. Thanks again to Kenny Elwood, who just a second ago said good morning. Kenny Elwood, Elwood Ranch, Divine Restaurant, right? Sponsors of the Divine Skycam. Thanks again, Kenny, for this beautiful look of the Sacramento River. Off the distance, you've got Mount Shasta. Look at that. And if you look at the trees, calm. Looking good. Looking good, my friends. All right, let's go and take a look now at Lake Shastina Golf Resort. I mean, come on, look at that shot. Thanks to Elwood Ranch for sponsoring this camera. You can see the beautiful blue skies we have out there right now. This is a look at Shasta Lake, also sponsored by Elwood Ranch. If you look off in the distance there, you can kind of see the American flag in the center of your screen. Number one, getting ready for the 4th of July as we celebrate the nation's 250th birthday. But the winds are not blowing that much. Although, you know, you take a look at the water, you can certainly see those little waves in there. I'm not much of an angler or fisherman, but I do know that they like those really calm conditions on the lake. All right, take a look at Soda Ridge. You can see Mount Shasta off in the distance there. A few wispy high clouds. Lassen Park, you've got sunny skies this morning, looking pretty nice. Lake Oroville, we've got, looks like a little bit of a haze out there this morning. And this is a look at Main Street, Chico. You can see the traffic is flowing along there. Crescent City Harbor District, clear skies, a couple of wispy high clouds. On the upper left-hand corner of your screen, if you look closely, you will see the moon there. This is, I was going to show you, Fort Jones. There it is. I was going to show you Bald Hill West, too. Why did I take Bald Hill West out? Let's do that. Bald Hill West looking down at Hoopa Valley. Looks like, clear skies. A little bit of haze off in the distance. And, of course, we just saw this a second ago. This is looking at Fort Jones, Scott Valley. Scott Valley looking like a nice shot there. Some wispy high clouds. There again is the sundog. What is this? Yeah, it's called a sundog. I showed you this at the top of the show, but if you missed it, here it is again. You can see this is sent by courtesy of Milt. Now, Milt sent the photo, and in his caption, he told me, you tell me. It's called a sundog. Wispy, thin, high cirrus clouds are ice crystals. Think of a crystal in your window. Eventually, at a certain time of the day, the sun shines through that crystal, and what happens? You see a rainbow somewhere in your house. Same concept here. The sun is shining through those ice crystals in those clouds, and you see that beautiful rainbow. Very nice. It's called a rainbow because of rain, right? But not always. It's not always, rainbow doesn't always from a result from rain. Prism, I guess you could call it that. By the way, Milt shared that photo from the Free Weather NorCal app. You can do the same, and you just might see it right here on Coffee with Krueger. Well, we're going to get into the deeper dive forecast here in just a bit, but first, a word from Wind River Resort and Casino, our sponsor of Coffee with Krueger.
It's time to saddle up and ride west. Wind River Resort and Casino is proud to bring Wyoming's own Ian Munsick to the Event Center stage. Friday, July 24th. Rising fast and bringing his signature sound. Ian brings the West to the rest. Tickets are just $60 plus fees. But they won't last long, so don't wait. Make it a country night to remember. Call 1-800-280-YOU-WIN to reserve your room and grab your tickets. Dust off those boots. Your adventure begins here at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Once again, I'd like to thank Wind River Resort and Casino for their support of Weather NorCal and being the primary sponsor of Coffee with Krueger. Here is a look at your Coffee with Krueger headlines. Highs near normal for the rest of the week. That's basically today. But tomorrow, we're going to see a spike in the temperatures, a bigger spike by Saturday for the 4th of July. And of course, when do you know? Just in time for the 4th of July, this is going to be the hottest day. About 102 degrees for Redding. And then we see temperatures drop slightly after that Sunday through next week. But highs will basically just be right around or slightly above normal for this time of the year. And then potentially bigger heat near the middle of the week. More on that in our deeper dive forecast. All right, let's go into the deep dive, get into more detail, get you into the longer range forecast. But first, let's start with the here and now. And that is low 60s for the valley. 30s, mainly 40s for the higher elevations, and looks like in the 40s, even some low 50s right now in Eureka. So you see the clouds right here. This is a weak cold front that's pushing through the Pacific Northwest. They're going to see some rain. Some of the clouds associated with that will be moving through later this afternoon. That will help to hinder our temperatures maybe a little bit. But here's the overall setup. And if you've been watching the local, the national news at all this week, you've been probably hearing about this big heat wave over the eastern United States. There it is. You've probably even heard the term dome of high pressure. Why? Because a dome of high pressure. The bigger that dome is, the bigger the heat is. And the center of that dome is where the biggest heat is. You go in the outer perimeters of that dome, it's not quite as hot. But bottom line, hot. And usually when we're talking heat over the eastern United States, you're also including humidity. And humidity is what can really make that heat even more dangerous, because now you're talking about what's called a heat index. You've probably heard that before, but we don't talk about it here because we don't typically have a heat index. It's because it has everything to do with the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. If you have high humidity and heat. The combination of the two can bring you some very dangerous heat. So the actual temperature may be like 98, 99, but because of the humidity, it feels more like 105, 106. And why is that? Well, think of your own nature's way of cooling your body off. You're outside, you're sweating, right? You have all this moisture all over your body that your body produces. That's its natural way of cooling you off, right? Why? Because when that moisture on your body evaporates, it cools you off. Think about when you get out of a pool around here. You're nice and cool, but you get out of the pool, even though it's 100 degrees outside, you're cold. And why is that? Because all of the water on your body is evaporating. Evaporation is a cooling process. Think of the term evaporative coolers, same process there. So, if you are here and you have high humidity, that sweat on your body is not going to evaporate. So you're not going to cool off. And so your body's natural way of cooling off, it can't because there's so much humidity and it's not allowing you to cool off. That's why it's more dangerous. So that's why when we say, yeah, it's a dry heat, that's exactly why. Dry heat is not as dangerous as heat with humidity. All right, that was the deep dive. That's what we talk about here in the deep dive, right? I go into a lot of detail. All right, so that's kind of a side note, but you've got the heat way off to the east, you've got heat off to the west. Then you have a trough of low pressure. That's got cooler air that's cooling down. Now, by the time it gets over us, it moderates. So it's still warm, but it's not as hot as it could be, say what we're seeing off to the east or even off to the west. But look what happens as we go through the rest of the weekend into next week. That trough of low pressure is now gone, and that's because this is building in over the desert southwest, and that is what is going to bring us bigger temperatures over the weekend. But another thing, and we'll be talking about this in a second, the flow around that area of high pressure could transport monsoon moisture into extreme eastern portions of Northern California, Lassen, eastern Plumas, even eastern Modoc County as well. That could bring the potential for thunderstorms Saturday and possibly Sunday as well. All has to do with the positioning of that area of high pressure. In the meantime, after that, we go through next week. Here we have the jet stream. This is in what we call a zonal flow type pattern. South of it, hot. North of it, much cooler. Where are we? Of course, we're in that warmer part. But you kind of see this just elongated area of heat, right? A little bit of a break there. But this looks to join forces with the desert southwest, and eventually near the end of next week into that next weekend, we can be talking about some significantly warmer temperatures. But overall, the Climate Prediction Center is keeping us in that near normal category, but I'd say we're probably going to be closer to the above normal category, or at least close to it. But overall, we're talking about it fairly hot, right? But really the normal high, as you can see, is around 97, 98, somewhere in that category. So when you look at where we are compared to where the normal high is, there's points in time where we're below it. There's points in time where we're just slightly above it. There's points in time again where we're below it and then above it. But really, give or take about 4 or 5 degrees above it, really even less than that, 3 to 4 degrees. Right? If the normal high is 98, we get up to 102, you're 4 degrees above normal. That's not unusual. That's nothing we can't handle. So little mini peaks and valleys, but that's really about it. It's not until, again, as I say, we go beyond that 10 days, we might just start to see it really climb above normal. All right, so let's take a look at the potential for that monsoon moisture. So we start off with today. I don't expect that today. We're just going to be looking at some afternoon clouds developing in the mountains, but staying dry. And even the coast seeing some clearing. Now take a look at Friday. Same story. I don't expect any of that monsoon moisture just yet, but we do have the afternoon clouds developing in the mountains. And maybe that fog kind of persisting along the coast. Now look at Saturday. Let's get in through time here. There it is, right? Modoc County in particular, but I think we could even see some activity here as well. And why is that? That's that high pressure I was talking about. The flow around that area of high pressure, and the desert southwest typically has the monsoon this time of the year. So if we get that flow around that area of high pressure, look what happens. It all transports that monsoon moisture in, and you see the potential for thunderstorms. Now, monsoon moisture, typically what triggers all of that moisture is what we call convection. Daytime heating for the day. The heat that we're seeing will then rise in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we see condensation and showers and thunderstorms begin to develop as a result. If you've got the available moisture, that available moisture will be the monsoon moisture off to the east. But we won't have that available moisture elsewhere. Again, it's that fine line of where that monsoon moisture is and where it isn't. And that's the key to the forecast for the weekend. You take that area of high pressure, you shift it a little bit more to the east, what happens? Well, we lose that flow of the monsoon moisture and we don't have those thunderstorms anymore. If you transport and you bring that area of high pressure a little more to the west, what happens? We get that flow maybe to the west of the valley, including places like Trinity County, Siskiyou County, and of course everywhere else in the mountains could see some isolated thunderstorms on Saturday, Sunday as well. But for now, it looks like that flow is mainly going to stay in extreme eastern portions of the state. So again, eastern Plumas, Lassen, and Modoc counties have the best potential for a stray shower or thunderstorm popping up. West of that, again, we don't have that monsoon moisture, but we do have, looks like a bit of that marine layer along the coast on Sunday. There's Sunday night around 10 p.m. Still some of the monsoon moisture producing a few showers out towards the east, so we'll have to watch that. All right, let's take a look at the lake levels. And we've seen, look at that, about a foot drop in the last 24 hours. That's been the trend for Lake Oroville over the last few days, but it's been about a quarter to a half a foot elsewhere around Shasta Lake, Trinity Lake. Still over 100%, barely, but still over 100% for Lake Shasta. All right, wave heights, they are dropping today. That's thanks to the calmer winds that we're going to see here along the coast, and looks like they do stay fairly low going into your Friday. Marine forecast for your Thursday, north winds at 15 to 20 knots. Now, the hazardous seas warning will expire this morning, but you head about 10 to 20 miles, nautical miles, that is, here off the coast. Still some choppy seas out there. There's actually a hazardous seas warning, or excuse me, a small craft advisory there. So just be aware of that if you have to head out to do some of that fishing. All right, take a look at your neighborhood forecast, sponsored by Dignity Health and Grange Co-op for Trinity County. Low 90s. Some upper 80s, places like Big Bar, about 87, 84 degrees for Ruth, but Douglas City, 93. 90 in Lewiston and 91 degrees in Weaverville. For the North Coast, yeah, it's cooling off for you by the weekend, especially by Sunday. Upper 50s by Sunday through the middle of next week. Otherwise, about 70 in Shelter Cove, 79 degrees in Honeydew, 67 in Blue Lake. Warming up, though, this weekend for the inland areas. Mid-90s for Saturday, Sunday. Upper 80s, low 90s for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That trend of warmer this weekend, warm through next week is pretty much the case across the board. Now, I don't have any showers or thunderstorms for you in Mount Shasta. I don't even have it for Modoc County, or at least for Alturas, because I think where most of that monsoon moisture will be east of Highway 395, right? You've got the, there, I've remembered, Warner Mountains. Of course, south of that, you may see some of those thunderstorms developing as well. So places like Fort Bidwell, Cedarville, Eagleville, sure. You may see a shower or thunderstorm on Saturday and Sunday, but Alturas, most likely not. You will be west of where that monsoon moisture is. Eastern Mountains, I'd say places maybe like Doyle, Janesville, Susanville might be pushing it. That's for Saturday, Sunday as well. But otherwise, yeah, dry. And temperatures warming up over the weekend. Oops. Went a little button heavy. Let me do something here. Let me take you back. One more. There we go. All right. Valley to the south. Temperatures much like they've been over the last few days. Low 90s. Mid to upper 90s by Friday, Saturday. And then looks like in the low to mid 90s for Sunday through at least Wednesday of next week. Your Chico 7-day forecast. Warming up. The peak of the warming trend will be Saturday with about 98. Low to mid 90s for Sunday through Wednesday of next week. All right, up north, 95 degrees for Redding as well as Anderson, Cottonwood. 94 in Red Bluff, 90 in Whiskey Town. You can see Lakehead about 88. And 95 for Palisadro. All right, here's your 7-day forecast for Redding, 4th of July. Happy 4th to you, folks. 250 years of our nation's birth. All right, nation's birthday. Happy 4th of July, and of course, that's on Saturday. And it's going to be 102 degrees. 102 degrees. Wouldn't you know? Wouldn't you know that it's been mild by our standards and we warm things up just in time for the 4th. But at least it's not under 10. As long as you stay hydrated and stay safe, you'll be good to go. That's for sure. Mid to upper 90s for Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, a high of about 100 degrees for that daytime high. All right. There you go, folks. All right, somebody kind of checking in this morning here. We've got Curtis, and he is saying this. Good morning. My mosquito fish are doing their job. Well, good. You know, by the way, if you have like a pond or anything like that on your property, you can call the Shasta Mosquito Vector Control, and they will go out to your property and put the mosquito fish in your pond for you. Now, what's good about that, you want to do that early in the season because they don't necessarily eat the mosquitoes that are in the air, but they eat the mosquitoes that are breeding in the water. Because why? Water is where they breed, right? And that's where they're born, and then they go fly around, and then they suck our blood. Fun. So, yeah, good. Good, Curtis. I'm glad that you got that out there. Let's take a look at what we've got from Hannah. She's saying, good morning from Reading. Well, good morning to you. So those of you watching from Reading or watching from outside of Reading, we got a greeting for you from Reading. I did the wind report for Jackie. Of course, I know, Jackie, you've been dealing with those winds, so glad to help there. That's what we do, right? So you ask the question, and if I wasn't planning on maybe talking about it, then I can talk about it and answer your question. Good morning from Cindy. We've got Scott Morrison saying, morning, Mike, from waters of Shasta Lake. So you are from the waters of Shasta Lake. Very cool. That's what it looks like where you are right now. Sunny skies, fairly calm winds. Looks like from your profile picture too, you're a golfer. How fun is that? Very, very cool. All right. Well, thank you, Scott, for checking in this morning. And of course, Jackie saying any temperature above 90 degrees is hot for this coastal girl. Absolutely. So, yeah, you're getting warm. You're definitely getting warm here, even for many of those inland areas. But along the coast, obviously, you stay nice and cool. Well, we usually take a quick look at the calendar, what it looks like for today. That was yesterday. What does it look like for today? Today is National Anisette Day. I have no idea what that is. Is that a drink? It's a liqueur, yeah, derived from aniseed. The national, and if I believe aniseed, isn't it like the fennel flavor? That's kind of like licorice, especially if you do it with sugar. Okay. Medical qualities, it's a sweet flavor. Association vary in cures, dates back to the ancient Egypt times. So there you go. Who knew? I don't really drink alcohol, so I probably won't be celebrating that day. National Wildland Firefighter Day. Well, if you see a firefighter today, be sure to thank them, number one, for all of their great service, and number two, wish them a happy National Wildland Firefighter Day. How cool is that? National, didn't even put it on the screen. So this is what I was talking about, and I don't even know if I was showing you the Anisette Day. Anyway, National Wildfire Fighter Day. That's what I was talking about there a second ago. So we are very grateful for them. And this is National I Forgot Day. This is made for me because I forget all the time. I forget things all the time. Lovely. Of course, I don't look like her, but okay. She's like, what? And that's it. Nothing too terribly exciting about our National Calendar Day, but there you go. All right, we're going to leave you some cameras. Once again, I want to thank Divine Sky Cam here and Kenny Elwood and Elwood Ranch for the sponsorship of the first three cameras you see here. Divine Restaurant here is where you're seeing this view from. Yes, that restaurant. Wonderful restaurant. Good food. You got the Sacramento River. You've got the Mount Shasta off in the distance there. Thanks again so much for watching this morning. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, right here in Coffee with Krueger at 6:30. Until then, have a great day, everyone.